Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very interesting review impressions of a knife that was given to our Apex Pass Around group from Sencut, and so I want to say thank you to Sencut for allowing me to review this knife. This is my first Sencut to ever handle, so I was pretty excited to do so. I have a lot of Wii's, I have a few Civivis, actually several Civivis. Enjoy them. They're all part of the same brand. Wii Knives owns Civivi and Sencut. Civivi are sort of like the regular brand, and then Wii Knives are the higher end brand, and then you have Sencut, which is the budget brand. And it's a really nice knife. I will tell you that this is Matrix micarta. It's like a chocolate brown Matrix micarta, really nice. Steel liners, a steel deep pocket carry clip, which gives you a very good, nice deep carry. T8 screws all around except for the pocket clip. Those are T6s. It does have 2 screws for the pivot, so it's not a captive pivot. You might need 2 screwdrivers if you take this apart. We don't take these apart. We don't do anything with them because we need to keep them in the original OEM condition, so the next person in the pass along or pass around can have a chance to review it in the original OEM condition, right? So really, really nice little knife. Has thumb studs for deployment for front and reverse flicking, which works really nicely. It has also a flipper. It's got nice jimping on the flipper, so it deploys well. There's no jimping up here for grip, but still works well. You sort of have a trigger right here. I wouldn't recommend it. It gets really close to the edge. You could do it. This is just fine. I have medium to medium large hands, so the handle just fits my large width handle. So my hands are large widthwise and medium lengthwise. So large hands can get this. I think you get full grips. If you get extra large, you're definitely going to be close to 3.5, almost off the edge. The materials is 9CRV 18 MOV, I believe. It's 9CRV 18 MOV, which is a good budget steel. I mean, it's not a great budget steel, but it's a good budget steel. This definitely is in the budget realm. It's under $50. So for that price, that's a good steel. Definitely a little bit better than 440 or something like that, or AUS 8 or AUS 6 or something like that. So I think, you know, it's a good steel. It's a good budget knife for sure with that type of material. It is a liner lock, as you saw. It's fully engaged around 50%. You can see that, and when you close it, it's definitely centered really nicely. Action is really good for a budget brand. Really is. Really, really nice. So it's a liner lock, really works well. The cutaway for the liner lock is relatively okay. It's got a little jimping on here, but you know, I wish it was a little more relieved because of the steel liner here. That does make it difficult to be able to push it back. After a while, your finger might get a little tired. So, you know, you take that into account, but it is a budget knife. So, I mean, the fact that it has a nice cutaway, it has some jimping, that's a real plus, right? It's definitely a real plus. And it is accessible. It's not as accessible as I would like it, and I wish that would be one of the things that was a little more cut out or something. I also wish that, you know, the clip here wasn't kind of duckbill and it was maybe titanium, but, you know, still a great one. Doesn't have any jimping up here. That would be another nice feature to have. For sure, but you know, for the price, I just can't complain, right? I just really can't complain. How does it lock? How does it work? It's a liner lock. It works really well. You can deploy it through the thumb stud. That's, you know, left or right. Reverse flick it. You can do the flipper. Works really well. So those are great ways to actuate the button. I really do like that. The shape of it, it's definitely, like we already talked about, it looks like a modified reverse Tonto, Warncliffe, sheep's foot sort of thing, whatever. You know, Blade Police, please correct me, comment down below, feel free. I like the shape. It's definitely a cutter, a slicer. You can definitely rock cut if you need to. It has a little point tip, good tip to get into like mulch and fertilizer, or if you need to open, you know, dog food, cat food, or, you know, 6-pack of soda and you want to cut the rings off. This has always really worked well. So I like that. I like that a lot. Let's do measurements and see how much this knife weighs. So let's go ahead and do a weight on this one first. All right, so we're in grams. Let's go ahead and get our units to ounces. So 3.14 ounces. That's not bad with steel liners. And if we do look in here, we do see a lot of cutouts, a lot of relief in the steel liner. So that definitely did some cut out some weight. So 3.1 ounces. So let's look at the length of the knife. So going from tip to back, we are right at 3 inches if you go from the tip to the handle. If you look at the cutting length, we are probably about 3 1/8 1/8 or 1/16th. The handle, it looks like if you go from where you're right there to there, about 3.5 inches, you've definitely got about 3.5 inches. If you were to try to choke up on the trigger position right here, which I don't recommend, you get 3 3/4. You might have very thin fingers. Just be careful not cutting the top of your hand on the edge, right? Overall length of the knife, we're looking at a knife that's right at 7 inches. Almost exact, yeah, it looks like exactly 7 inches long. So it's not perfect in ratios, 3.14, but it sure is close. And as far as ratios go, it's not bad at all. We find the center of gravity on this knife, we're probably right there where your finger would be. So it'll feel balanced, definitely, I think. That's certainly nice. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness. All right, so what are we looking at? We are looking at, all right, 122 hundredths of an inch, 122 hundredths of an inch. So that's a little over 1/10 of an inch. Not much, but it's a fairly decent, pretty thin blade, so that works out really, really nice. Those are good measurements. So, knife category. This is absolutely a budget knife, and a really good budget knife, I will say. This is definitely under my $100 range. It's even under $50 range, so you're in the 40s with this one. It has so much going for it in the $49 range for a knife. You might even find it lower at some retailers, but this is just really phenomenal. I really, really like this knife, so definitely a good value here. So the purpose, EDC every day, I would say hard use. It is a liner lock. Anytime people say hard use, don't go banging on trees and logs. Use a fixed blade for that, or an axe. That's not what it's made for. But if you're in an emergency, I think it'll be pretty strong. The liner lock, steel on steel, it's no blade rocks in there really well. Very solid, so I think it could definitely be used for any hard use tasks that you might do every day. Anywhere from opening envelopes, boxes, to, working in a shipping, receiving kind of area. If you're cutting down cardboard boxes, it should do fairly well. I think it really is a great all-day, use knife that you can keep in your car, you can carry with you, whatever. I think there's just a lot of functionality with this knife, so I think you'll really enjoy that. Ergos and feel. Let's talk a little bit about that. All right, so the ergos and feel, the handle design, it's really nice for a budget knife. There's some chamfering all around. It's no sharp edges, really comfortable. It feels good. This clip doesn't really have a hot spot. I can feel it a little bit here because it is a smaller handle, so you can feel it somewhat here. If you do squeeze hard, you will feel it here, but it's not horrible. For everyday light use, this will be perfectly fine. I don't think that's a big deal. Deployment, the thumb studs work really, really nicely. Both left-handed and right-handed, because it is a liner lock, so you're clear of, like if it was a frame lock, it's easy to left and right, reverse flick, forward flick, whatever. The flipper works really well. I think you can do the push button, you can do the light switch. I think you can get a little more power out of the light switch, but it's a toss-up. I think they both work really, really well. So that works nicely, and it does lock up really well. Closing design, cutaway, we've definitely got the room. We already talked about that, so it's definitely comfortable. I will say I wish it was a little more relief here, because after a while my finger did get a little sore and a little hard to get to, because it's elevated, but it's not deep enough for big, fat, meaty fingers like mine, or meaty fingers, because I definitely have meaty fingers. They're wide, they're not super, thin, dainty fingers, so like this really becomes a little more of a challenge. I like a little more access to that liner lock. Like I have this one right here. This is my dark bolt, and it has a really good relief access right there. You can see that, really easy to get to. I think that would be the one thing I wish that if they could, they would add that. That would be really nice. All right, so fidget factor. You've got thumb studs and you got flipper, right? You can't really do the middle finger reverse flick, I don't think. Yeah, I don't really have enough traction to get in there. So I've got, I would say probably a 7 out of 7, or 7 possible is the highest score you can get for fidget factor, because you have, the flipper and you have the thumb studs, and that's it. Just really no other extra front flipper or any other things, because, this right here is a 10, because you got the front flipper, you got the flipper, you have 2 thumb studs, and then you even have a button lock. This is definitely a 10 out of 10 as far as what you can do. But being for a 7 out of 7, I would say for a budget line. Now, mind you, I'm in the budget realm, and I'm reviewing this with the perspective of this is a budget knife. I would say for the 7, it's close to a 95%. So it almost is a perfect score, right? The relief here, I think, is what really dampers me from giving it 100%. Maybe a 90, because that relief really would make a huge difference, I think, for some people, including myself. So fidget factor is really high. It's 90, so it's a 90%, almost 100%, which is great. Overall thoughts on the design, and is it recommended? Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great budget knife. I think you could do far worse if you were looking for cheaper knives. But if you're looking for a decent first use, hard use, given as a gift, keep it in the car, maybe in a bag, whatever, this is a great knife to use. You know, if it's your first knife, this is definitely a step up from, you know, a little cheap gas station knife, a little $5, $10 knife. I would recommend starting off with a knife like this or similar to it, right? So my recommendation is that, yeah, this is definitely a recommended knife. I'm going to put it into my recommended budget knives, absolutely. And I think you could do far worse if you were to get something not as good as this. This is really a very good budget knife. I think you'll be very happy with it. And overall, my thoughts are very, very positive. For the area and the target audience and the type of knife it is, this is a great knife. If you're looking for a higher end knife, obviously no. This is a budget knife. So even people with higher end knives sometimes will want to carry something like this. If you need to beat up, bang up, cut something horrible that you're going to destroy a knife, you don't want to use one of your fancy custom knives for that. This would be a great knife, a great alternative. So I think in that regard, this is a great knife, something that you could certainly use. All right. So that's my overall thoughts on this, and I was really thankful again to Sencut for allowing us to have this knife and for the pass along and to be able to share this. I'm going to send this over to the next person, but I am really grateful and thank you, Sencut, for this. I hope we get an opportunity to do more reviews like this, because it is an honor to be able to do that, because this is typically not a knife that I would go shopping for. All my knives I buy from my own collection, and this is not something I would necessarily put in my collection. You know, if you're talking about a budget knife, you know, what I really would bring in is going to be something like this Devo Pony Stout. This is about the type of budget knife that I would bring into my collection. This is the type of knife that I would use as a fifth pocket knife. I would have, you know, in my car. I would have in a backpack as an emergency knife. You know, this is just a good, usable knife. So that's my area where I would spend. I mean, it's definitely going to be twice as much as this. So, you know, that you take it with a grain of salt. But if I was to buy a knife for someone and I knew it was a first-time knife and I didn't want to spend a lot and I knew 50 bucks would be about it, this is absolutely in my consideration now. After handling this, I would say this is something you should consider, something I'm going to consider. There are times when I buy knives for friends or family and my budget's about 50 bucks, and this will definitely be in that, because you know, the QSP, Penguins, you know, there's a lot of knives that can be in this realm. The Baby Banter is about $10 more than this, so that really does get it into almost the $60, $65 range, so it's not quite competitive. This is definitely a better buy. So, yeah, that's kind of where I stand on this. You know, I think it's a great knife. I think it's a great opportunity. If you haven't checked it out, you should definitely check out the Sencuts. I am very impressed. This being my first experience with a Sencut, I think that they're doing an outstanding job for the budget line. It really is a great job. So thank you, Sencut. All right, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it, you know, the comments, content fun, interesting, or worthwhile, would you please consider liking the video down below? And if you've already hit the like button, would you consider hitting the subscribe button? Subscribing and liking the videos here really, really helps out my channel a lot. It allows me to produce more content, do more things, and provide more things to you guys. Really would appreciate you guys maybe taking a second just to go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe button. If you've already done all that, maybe consider hitting the notification button so you can be notified of future content as I drop it. And if you've done all that, then maybe check me out on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives on Instagram. Hey, thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.